Black Belt Selling with Stephanie and Anna Scheller. I'm Anna.
And I'm Honey.
We're a mother-daughter team who are passionate about helping you grow your business through growing your sales. On Sales Mastery, we present content, but we also bring extraordinary guests who can help you break through the barriers that are keeping you from making more sales. You can learn more about us by going to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. There you find content, you find motivational, inspiring quotes, but most of all, you can learn when our videos and our blogs and our these podcasts, hello, when the podcasts go live. Yes. So we're excited that you're with us today, but even more importantly, I'm excited about the guest that we have joining us today. Our guest today is Shawn McBride. Shawn, welcome to Black Belt Selling.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Now, Shawn works with successful business owners that want to build companies that stand the test of time so that their wealth is protected for their families or heirs. His goal is to educate others and to help them live their dreams. Now, he guided his first business, the R. Shawn McBride Law Firm, with some letters after it, to be business focused. After all, he was exposed to business, and he did complete college degrees in accounting and business administration. And you're a CPA, right, Shawn?
Yes, I have a CPA license. Yep.
Oh wow! How many states? Excuse me.
I have a CPA license in 3 states, and I have my attorney license, which is rather crazy, in 12 states in DC.
Oh my goodness!
How do you find time to sleep, Shawn?
Well, the attorney work, I had to take a lot of bar exams. Thankfully, that's kind of in the rearview mirror at this point. But I do have a lot of paperwork for continuing education. I have to mail stuff back and forth between the various states and keep everybody happy.
Oh yeah. Let's see, and you also have a for business firm, which is a business strategy firm, which we're going to talk somewhat about today. And so you're like us. You help business owners implement their dreams. You just do it a little differently than we do.
That's right. Looks like we're looking at different facets of the business, but yes, it's all about getting people where they want to go.
Now, Shawn's interests include travel, education, speaking, reading, antique cars. That must be very fascinating.
It is. It's one of those hobbies that gets me completely in a different space. When I'm working on a car, I'm looking at a problem on it, or I'm getting it tweaked up. It's just I'm completely separated from what would be the practice of law or the business strategy work or writing. I'm just in a completely different element. So it's been a great thing for me to have that thing that's completely different than what I do every day.
Wow. Stephanie has her horse. Does that work for you, Stephanie?
Sure, yeah, totally on the same level.
Well, again, Shawn, thank you for joining us. And Shawn and I actually met through mutual friends, Samantha Kelly. Those of you who follow us on Black Belt Selling know Sam as the tweeting goddess out of Ireland. Yes. And so she texted me or she sent me a DM and she said, you really ought to get to know this guy. So we had a really great conversation. And I'm really excited because Shawn talked about, among other things, the advantages that women have in business partnerships, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about. And you shared a little bit about your background, but tell us how you ended up with 2 businesses. Interesting.
I started, out of law school. I did what everybody told me to do, which is, I got good grades and I went to work for a big law firm. And I spent about 10 years of my career working for some of the largest law firms in the country, in the U.S. and the world. And after a while, things were transitioning in the legal world. A lot of people were making changes, and it became one of those moments where I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And I said, okay, I'm going to step away from the big law firm world and start my own boutique law firm. And that was the first step for me towards owning my own business. And that business started and evolved. But as I was working with my clients, a lot of times people were like, well, that's great that you can document this. It's great you can put this together, but can you really help us with the business strategy? And can you really help us implement this? Yeah, now we have a board of directors, which helps us with continuity, but how do I put people on the board of directors? How do I make a board of directors really work? And meanwhile, I was also being asked to speak to audiences, and so much of the work I do as a lawyer is so far down the line. You've already decided on what you're doing with the business. You already decided you need money. Then you contact the lawyer. A lot of people wanted to bring me in sooner. So that led to me opening my business strategy firm so that I could talk with people both as a speaker to audiences, but also work with people a lot earlier in the process when they're building the business, when they're laying the foundations. I can work with them more there. A lot of times they'll bring in a management team and some consultants early in the process, and they bring the lawyers in later in the process. So it gave me a chance to kind of work with people more holistically and earlier in the process. So that's how that all kind of came about.
So you kind of did what we talked about multiple times, where even though you're running multiple businesses, they're all kind of heading the same direction. So
Yeah.
they feed each other, which makes it much easier. I have people who try and just build simultaneously two completely separate businesses, and I always look at them and I'm like, are you insane? Like, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
You're going to build two businesses, they got to work together. So I thought that was interesting. Sorry.
I absolutely agree, and I've always heard that advice. It's hard to run two businesses, and I was very careful about it. And really, I almost have three businesses because I have the law firm, I have the strategy firm, and then I have the speaking business. And all three of them have different components, but it is one core of knowledge. It's one core expertise, which is planning and building that business for the future. The three avenues allow me to deliver it in different ways depending on a particular client's needs. Some clients need that legal documentation drafted and put in place, and I can help with that. Some people want me to speak to a group and open this discussion up and get an association or a trade group going a particular direction, or a corporate team with their employees building plans. And then sometimes I'm in there doing the strategy work. So it's all one body of knowledge. It's delivered differently depending on the particular client's needs.
So I'm curious, you said you went from doing the big law firm to opening your own boutique firm, and that is a big step, but it is a step a lot of people contemplate and a lot of people want to do. What was it that, because I found it like someone has to have a drive to do that. Something's going to like trigger. So what was it that made you go, never mind, I need to open my own firm?
Yeah, well, I was at a time in the big law firms where, because of the economy and other things, they were changing and a lot of things were evolving. People were moving. So I was kind of at a point where a lot of my colleagues around me were making moves. So I was at a firm. A lot of my colleagues were coming and going. They were at one firm, then they're transitioning to a different firm to try and meet their client needs and try to do other stuff. So there was a lot of transition going on around me, which I said, okay, time out. Everything's changing around me. Let me figure out what my plan is. And that's when I started having a lot of in-depth conversations with people, thinking about what I wanted to do. And as I worked through the process, I said, the way I can really build something that's uniquely me, that allows me to deliver value in the way that I work with people in a way that's meaningful to them, the best way to do that is to have my own operation. And that's kind of what led to it. It was the early days of really trying to build a business to reflect my uniqueness and my style. And I didn't really realize where it was going at that point, but that was the first step in that path.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you've moved. Go ahead, Steph.
Oh, no, I thought you had a question.
Well, we've really talked about how you've moved into doing business strategies, but one of the things that's fascinating that maybe you don't, Stephanie and I don't always get the chance to really chat before we have interviews with these wonderful guests, but Shawn, you did a TEDx talk on the advantages that women have in business partnerships. And of course, you're looking at two women who, beyond being blood related, work together.
Yes.
So yeah, it does get to be very fun, but it's very strong. We have very strong working relationship. But let's talk about some of the advantages that women have in business partnerships, because I honestly believe that women, even though our society is very progressive, and
Yeah.
even though our society is very, we do a lot of, we speak a lot about everybody being equal, really women are still not confident and still underserved, I believe, in the business world.
Yes.
So, first of all, how did you come to even talking about women in business? I mean, how
Yeah.
did you even get there? Huh?
That was part of the evolution, and that's one of the fun things about having your own business is things evolve. So as I started running the law firm and then the business strategy firm had started, one of my employees came to me. We had been looking at different speaking avenues, and they said there's a event for TEDx for women. Why don't you go speak there? And it was just it was not something that I really would have put two and two together. But one of my female employees was like, well, you work with a lot of women in business. You're a good role model for this segment. You're supportive of women in business. You should go talk at TEDx Women. And I was like, let's put the application in. We'll see what happens, and we did, and we applied, and, they thought, they saw it, they saw the message, they saw my core expertise of working with a lot of business partnerships and particularly working with women business partnerships. They saw it fitting well with their theme. I think they liked the change up of having a male speaker in the lineup. So that, I think it was 6 women, and I was the 7th speaker at the TEDx event I spoke at. So I think they liked the change of pace, the change of lineup, and having a different message. So it all kind of flew together. It worked very well, and it's created a whole new theme and a whole new discussion, and generally positive. Most people like the message that I've embraced. I've had a little bit of controversy. I've had a handful of people that are saying it's 2017 and we shouldn't be talking about women and men in business, and we should kind of just not discuss that subject. But
Really?
on the philosophy that there shouldn't be any debate about whether women and men should be in business. Everybody should be treated the same, and we shouldn't be discussing the genders in business. But I think realistically, when we look at how business is going, there's still work to be done. There's differences in statistics of men versus women business.
Yeah.
And everybody's unique. Women do business differently than men. And when I did the TEDx talk, that was one of the themes I brought in there, was that we have different styles. And I've read a lot of books about men and women in business, particularly after I started preparing for the TEDx talk and going forward afterwards. I've read a lot of literature about it, a lot of books, and many of the books out there that are advising women in business are telling them to conduct business more like men, and I think that's absolutely the wrong advice. And the message that I got is we each need to be uniquely ourselves. Women statistically do things different ways than men. Let's embrace that, and let's build businesses around that.
Yeah, and I think that's where, to me, I don't think there is controversy about women and men in business. I think if women are getting kudos and special bonuses just because they're women in business, that to me is wrong, just as it would be wrong for the guys to get it. I mean, I don't think, as far as that goes, I love the topic, the idea of what are our assets, because, we are going to do it. We are going to do it differently. And I'll have to look up your talk. I didn't realize that. That's really cool, because we don't get to talk about that. And if you do talk about it, sometimes it becomes, oh, you sexist or you racist or you not racist necessarily, but you feminazi, right? If I talk about women in business, it's, oh, you feminazi. I'm a woman in business. What do you want me to talk about?
Exactly. It's a real topic out there. I do think some audiences, because after I did the TEDx, I've gone out and spoke many times about this topic. Sometimes just having that outside voice helps to facilitate the discussion, and that's something I'm glad to do. But yeah, it's still a sensitive topic. Obviously, people have opinions about it. I got a couple of weeks ago, I took a big hit because I was scheduled to speak somewhere. I did speak there, but in the build-up, they sent emails to the organizer saying this wasn't an appropriate topic and it shouldn't be discussed at their forum, and so I've had to be on the responsive end of this thing. So,
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very funny. I think that's fascinating because I guess I just don't understand where people feel that we have to all be generic. We have
Right.
to all be uniform, that there is, there are assets, and we're going to talk about those because there are things that women bring to the table that we are naturally gifted with.
Yes.
It's not to say that men can't get those or can't cultivate those traits,
Right.
but we women, we tend to, like the first one is something about buying decisions.
Yeah.
What is it about buying decisions?
Well,
Who makes all the most of the buying decisions?
Yeah, and that's statistical. You know, there's research out there. Bridget Brennan wrote a book called Why She Buys, and she looked at who's making consumer buying decisions. And women make up about 80% of consumer buying decisions. Now, men make up about 70% because, you know, some consumer buying decisions are made jointly, husbands and wives, men and women. But women are making more of the decisions. And I think that's just kind of how we run household economics a lot of times is the female makes decisions. And one of the points is one of the hardest things in starting a business is making decisions, right? We as business owners get bombarded, and you've got to get very efficient at making decisions or else your business is just not going to progress. You're not going to keep up with the pace of things. And because women are doing these economic choices and not even thinking about it, that really does position them to take those first steps into being business owners because they're ready to make decisions. They know how to say yes or no to things. And a lot of men, they don't have to make as many decisions on this front. So they actually are coming in at a slight disadvantage in this category of running a business.
That's interesting. That's probably why you're getting all the controversy, because you're trying to say that the women have an advantage over it in any area. That's why people are mad.
Right. Well, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying women or men are better, but I'm saying there are definitely categories that women have advantages in. There may be categories men have advantages in. And that's right. I mean, and I say build your team to compete the way you're the best. If I'm coaching a basketball team and I've got a bunch of fast players, I'm going to run a different strategy than if I have a bunch of tall guys that can dunk the ball, right? I'm going to build my business strategy to my team. And there's so much advice out there that tells women to go out there and do what men have done or to build their businesses like men built their business. And I think it's just absolutely the wrong advice.
Well, what about, so just the next one here, because I'm super curious about this. You say they also have an advantage in communication in business.
Yes. Yeah, and there's statistical studies out there that show women and men communicate differently. A university professor went through and basically did a linguistic study of how women communicate versus men. And women use a greater variety of words. They will use more words. Men use more simplistic language and less variety. This type of communication difference plays into business. I mean, one of the key things, and my TEDx talk was really focused on business partnerships, multiple owners of the same business. And one of the keys in that situation, you guys probably know it because you guys are a partner on this project, you've got to communicate with each other in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And women communicate more robustly and deeper, and they tend to work through things differently than men, because men, a lot of times I find they just will go off and do things separately and they're not stopping to coordinate and communicate. And that can be a huge issue in a business partnership. We don't see that issue come up with my clients as much with women. Women, there's usually not a problem with a lack of communication. And we don't have as many disputes among women either. You know, that's another point that comes up there is women tend to work through things.
That's very interesting, because yesterday I have a realtor that I'm working with in town, and I'm actually starting a mastermind group. And so she's working through a rather significant problem with one of her realtors. Yeah. And so she and I just kind of sat down and we talked about, you know, how does she approach the situation so that she gets the most information out from this person without making them feel like they're being called on the carpet, because it's one of those things. And I just remember us talking through it for her, and it was just very fascinating how the two of us she's like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't think about that. And of course, whereas a guy in the same situation would just tend to, this is the way we do it.
Yep.
Boom. We're done. It's done. will take care of collateral damage later.
Right.
And the women knows there's going to be collateral damage, and the women are usually the ones to pick up the collateral damage. And the guys are like, what are you talking about? There's no problem here. We're all going, there's a problem.
Yeah, there's negotiation studies out there that show, women will tend to, when you put women together to negotiate for an outcome against each other, and you put a woman and a man together to negotiate an outcome, you're most of the time you're going to get to a negotiated settlement. You're going to reach a number. You're going to get finished. You put two men negotiating against each other, these same studies show that often the men will come to a deadlock. They'll just say, we're not going to agree with each other. We're going different directions. And that can be huge. Yes. Yeah. When you do these studies, when you pair these people differently, women are a key element to getting to compromise, whereas men often will just walk away and say, we just don't agree. So a lot of research out there shows this is a very positive quality for women in a business partnership setting or in business in general.
So women tend to go more.
Well, so that leads to a higher level of collaboration too, then, I would assume, and not just the communication and the interaction, but if we're communicating it, and I know that's something you talk about, so I kind of like you to elaborate on that one, but I can see how there's kind of a segue to that.
Exactly. Yeah. When I did the TEDx talk, I profiled a company called the Studio for Image Professionals, and it's run by two ladies, and I've met one of them in person, and I know of the other, but they were running competitive businesses, and they were both watching each other in this industry because they both knew that they were top of class. And then one day, Sylvie DeGusto, who's the lady I met, just picked up the phone and she called the other lady, Shauna McKenzie, and she said, hey, you're doing great stuff. I've been watching you. And on the other end of the line, Shauna's like, well, yeah, I've been watching your stuff too. So for an extended period of time, the two of them is watching each other as competitors. And then, bam, they scheduled a meeting. They sat down face to face. They talked. They said, we can do more together. And bam, it just came together. And it's been very cooperative since then. And that business is moving forward. Now, that's one case, but we also see, research studies show same type of thing. Women will often come to that negotiated outcome or come to that compromise or do something where they can work together, whereas men will often go alone. When we look at compensation for a group project, women are much more likely to be willing to accept group compensation based on the entire outcome, whereas men normally want individual compensation. I get paid for what I contribute to the team. And that completely fundamentally changes how a business works, the stability and the structure of it, the satisfaction levels. Women partnerships tend to have higher satisfaction levels than their male counterparts, often because I think there's not as much of this internal fighting of who gets what. Everybody sees it going into the pot and everybody's benefiting from the chemistry.
Wow, I'm realizing I'm so far off from any normal woman apparently because I'm a non-group person.
and these are statistical studies, and I get that. I get the calls, and I had a woman call me a couple months ago, and she was concerned. She's like, I watched your TEDx video. I think it's great, but I don't like to collaborate with other women. And I said, that's okay. That's your personality style. Yeah. That's how you're going to do business. That's okay. But we're talking generalities and statistical norms here. Of course, you've got to then custom blend the plan for the particular business or partnership.
Yeah, it's it really is. Again, we are speaking in generalities, but it does lend a lot of credence to the idea that women can hold their own in business, and we don't have to be like men in order to be successful. And we can actually do very well working with other women, which is, I guess, why I love being a woman in business. I'm grateful that I am different. I'm grateful that I can operate off of my intuition, yes. And I don't, and that doesn't mean that I'm not rational. It doesn't mean that I don't think through some stuff, but sometimes the gut is the gut, and it knows. And I'm seeing more and more where the books are saying, people really need to listen to their intuition, and guys are going, what?
Yeah, I've had a theory for a while, and it's kind of tangential to this, but with the rise of artificial intelligence, automation, computers, I mean, computers are great at logical. They can crunch numbers all day. They can make very logical decisions. The human element and what's becoming so critical in today's modern marketplace and the business world is that soft emotional. What do people really want? What are they craving? What is the desire there? That kind of emotional piece is so critical now in business. And I think, and I don't have the research to support it because I haven't seen the study come out yet, but intellectually, I think a lot of us know that women kind of do very good at that gut feeling, that emotional interaction. And I think that's becoming more and more critical as more and more of the routine, logical, programmatic stuff is going the way of computers.
I agree. I agree.
I agree, and I love it. And I know we're moving along very quickly here, and I want to give time to talk because I saw something on here that, of course, makes me perk up on the list of information that Anna sent over. And you talk about common blunders
Yes.
that I'm assuming business owners make. I would love to hear these because I'm always looking for, I see the ones I see, but I love your perspective and what you see.
Well, I wrote a book, and it's called Business Blunders. So I just happen to have a copy here with me. And so what I did here was in the legal practice and later the strategy practice, we had people come to us that had been making mistakes before they hired us. And unfortunately, what I kept seeing was very similar mistakes repeated. And so I wrote a book called Business Blunders, which is essentially a checklist book. And it runs through 10 of the most common mistakes we see in business, what people had done, unfortunately, before they hired us. So this guide is kind of a way when I interface with audiences or people go out on the internet or whatever, it just chronicles 10 dangerous mistakes we've seen over and over again and tells you how to deal with those 10 mistakes. So hopefully that's moving businesses farther down the line to success. So we're just trying to avoid those common mistakes before they happen to keep businesses rolling forward.
Where do we get copies of that? Because I would love to grab a copy of that.
McBrideBook.com. We'll get you pointed there. So if you go over there, it's available on Amazon as well. But if you go to McBrideBook.com, that's got all the links. It'll get you to a copy.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I would love to have a copy of that one. I'll look that up while I'm right here. So can you share what one of them is?
Sure. One of the biggest ones I have for people is they think just because they formed an LLC or a corporation that their personal assets are protected, right? So many people hear that advice, oh, you've got a business, go out and form an LLC. Yeah. Go out and form a corporation, and people file a one-page document with the state, they pay a filing fee, and they go, oh, I'm an LLC, and I don't have to worry anymore. Well, there's more to it than that. The courts are a little more aggressive. Whenever we have a problem, if we get in that situation where somebody's harmed by the company, the court really has to make a decision. Is that person harmed? That person maybe had a slip and fall, got involved in some kind of accident, something went wrong. Does that person lose out, or does the business owner lose out, right? One of them's not going to get all the money. And so the court has to decide. So they go in, they really test, was this business run like a business? Was it properly accounted for? Was the money treated like a business? So we got to go one step beyond just merely filing with the state and saying we're an LLC or corporation. We've got to then have proper accounting, proper procedures, bookkeeping, ledgers. All of our documents need to be in the name of the business. When we're negotiating with people, we got to be negotiating in the name of the business. So a lot of people fall short. They do that first layer of protection. They go out and form their entity and they think they're done, and they're not. So a lot of people unfortunately get surprised later if something bad happens in the business when they find their personal assets are exposed.
Yeah. I actually have an interesting LLC story. This is where an LLC actually works. Yeah. So my husband and I, we have one, and in the name of the LLC, through the LLC, as the LLC, we were building property. We were building houses, spec homes, and the like. And I get this phone call one day from my construction manager. Hey, you're going to get a phone call from a really angry lady, and she's pretty mad because one of our subcontractors drove through an empty lot full of cactus. It turns out it's hers, and she's really upset about it. And I said, oh, okay, well, we'll go sort it out. It's just cactus, whatever. Well, we went, and she was angry, and she's upset. And so we offered her quite generously to pay for the broken cactus. Well, she came back and she wanted like 3 times more money. Like we offered her $1,500 to replace cactus that would grow back. But anyway, so she started talking about us, that we weren't coming up, and so she sued, or she did a civil law or a civil proceeding against this small claims court, and she sued me and my husband.
Yeah.
So I went to her and I said, I'm telling you, if you want any money, you got to sue this. And, it's my LLC. I told her, you must sue the LLC.
Yep.
No. And she wouldn't listen. She was very upset, wouldn't listen. And in court, when we're sitting there and she's accusing us of just all property destruction and damage, we looked at the judge and we said, sir, Your Honor, she's free to file a suit against the LLC, but we're not the LLC. It was the LLC. And he looked at us and he looked at her and he looked at us and he goes, And so she came back, well, you are the LLC. And I said, I understand that thinking, but the LLC is actually a separate person in this whole situation.
Yeah.
Of course, she didn't get any money out of it. We did our paperwork. We
Yeah.
did everything. We filed properly. We were maintaining the entity as an entity.
Right.
And so we won the lawsuit.
Yeah.
But had she gone against the LLC, she probably could have gotten damages.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say this story tells you so much about who Anna is, because how many people go to the person who's trying to sue them and try and help them?
Tell them how to fix it. Exactly. We don't do that as
Sue the LLC, right? No, you just let them make their blunder.
Right.
I guess I would make a terrible lawyer, but that's okay. I'm a sales coach instead. Well, oh my gosh, Shawn, it has been so wonderful to have you. I've learned so much. And one thing you want to do, send people to your website. One, I think it's important that they listen to your TEDx talk. Very fascinating, quite interesting.
Sure.
And how can they get in touch with you and get more information? And definitely we want them to get your book.
Yeah, definitely. If you go over to yourbusinessspeaker.com, very simple. That is my speaking website, and it features the TEDx film there, right on the homepage. You'll see it there. McBrideBook.com is my book, Business Blunders. If you go over to McBrideForBusiness.com, that's my business strategy firm, and we have a great blog there. Like you, we've been blogging and videoing and a lot of tips about businesses and ideas that you can do better. So I recommend people check all that out. A lot of great stuff there for them to just, we're all about helping, and I put a lot of information out there in the world, a lot of lessons from my speaking, from questions from clients. And I'm really of the philosophy, I give away a lot of the stuff, and I want to help people with the higher level issues. That's my clients, the people that have bigger issues. They need to do something really important, then they come to me. But all the information that's routine or normal, I basically give it away to the world so that people can make their businesses better. Call me in when you really need me for that speech to that group or that audience. But McBrideForBusiness.com, a lot of blogs there about running your business better, management tips and processes. And then McBrideAttorneys.com, my legal website, has a lot of blogs about legal issues and things you have going on there. So a lot of different resources out there for folks.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I'm trying to pull them all up here, but first of all, Shawn, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
It's fun to have you here.
Of course. This is fun. I enjoy it. It's great getting on here with great people. So
cool. We'll have to thank Sam for connecting us, and maybe we can have you back on somehow. I feel like we probably have not quite covered all of the value you can bring to the table.
I am here for you. You want to schedule again? I would love to. I enjoy these types of things, and I like helping people get the word out there. So anything I can do to deliver some stuff, more value to people, I would love to.
Awesome. Well, we're the same way. I do want to invite our listeners. So first of all, I'm going to walk you through the sites again real quick. We have McBrideBook.com. I've got them pulled up so I can do them correctly. We've got YourBusinessSpeaker.com. We also have McBrideForBusiness.com, and we have McBrideAttorneys.com. Now, what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is, instead of sitting here and as you're driving along trying to scribble all those down, hop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/black belt selling. And when we air this episode, we will make sure to post those links in there so you can get yourself a copy of that book. Look, prevention is the best medicine. You will spend 40 million times more money trying to fix a problem than if you just prevent it. Learn from those books. 10 Top Business Blunders. I'm always looking for that stuff. I'll get a copy. Like, I'm excited about this because this is exactly the type of person we bring on who's sharing value and information because you deserve to be a black belt as well. So, Shawn, one more thank you time for joining us.
Thank you.
In the meantime, for our listeners, join us again next week. We always have awesome content, awesome speakers, awesome guests, and amazing giveaways for you guys. We look forward to having you out with us again soon. If you want to get in touch with Shawn, you can check out the Contact Us form on any one of his websites. In the meantime, you have control of your life. You are a black belt of your life, and I encourage you to go out there and make it a great week.
Thank you.